Taking a look back at the 2021 NFL draft, we've seen all the fifth-year options for the 2020 class. What about that first round of 2021, projecting out those fifth-year options, and just a reminder of what a draft class just 2 years ago looks like now in the NFL? Coming up on today's Peacock and Williamson.
NFL analyst Brian Peacock and former NFL scout Matt Williamson bring you expert NFL analysis every day in less than 30 minutes. Get an inside look into the NFL on the field and in the front office. With elite breakdowns, next-level analysis, and in-depth information only for the real NFL fans. This is Peacock and Williamson, and it starts now.
Welcome to the Peacock and Williamson NFL Show. Brian Peacock alongside Matt Williamson at BD Peacock at Williamson NFL. Thanks everybody for making us your first listen on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We're going to start diving deeper into the 2023 draft, division by division, coming up on Monday's episode of Peacock and Williamson. But it was fun doing the look back of 2020, going through all the fifth-year options that were picked up, and it was suggested by some listeners out there that maybe we project out 2021 and take a peek at that draft class as well. So we're going to do that on today's episode of Peacock and Williamson, the 2021 draft, famously with a lot of quarterbacks at the top, much like 2023. That was the Trevor Lawrence draft. And doesn't it seem like Joe Burrow, Matt, has been in the NFL an eternity longer than Trevor Lawrence, even though there were back-to-back draft classes, 2020 and 2021?
I think it's really interesting to do this exercise, and I'm excited to talk through it with you because I really enjoyed and thought it was enlightening going through the fifth-year options and to come up with only 12 and a half, if you count Love, out of 32 get picked up, so it's just not for long. I mean, things change so quickly in this league, and a lot of these guys that we're going to talk about today, so much of their story isn't even written, but that's not necessarily a good thing. You better start writing soon or that book gets thrown away.
Because if there's too many twists and the team can't tell how that story might end, you're not going to get that option picked up. And with the salary cap jumping, those fifth-year options are going to continue to jump in future seasons as well. But Trevor Lawrence, I think, pretty safe, and as a slam dunk, they're picking up that option. Even if
no doubt.
I mean, I can't imagine how bad he would have to play. An injury wouldn't even scare him away this year, right? It would have to be such bad play, something crazy off the field. There's really no chance that Trevor Lawrence doesn't get picked up.
I mean, I hate to say this, but if he blows out his knee in minicamp, doesn't play a snap this year, they still are in. I mean,
no doubt. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, that's a done deal, I think. And I think he's now I'm excited for Sando's quarterback tiers. And some of these, I might even put a top 32 quarterback list together. I think he's a top 10 guy already and certainly ascending.
And we only have 2/3 of the picture here because after 3 seasons, teams have to make a decision on that fifth year. And we've only seen 2 of those seasons for a lot of these quarterbacks. And the second pick, it couldn't be more different. It would be a shock right now if Zach Wilson does something with Aaron Rodgers now in town with the Jets, unless he's traded out, ends up somewhere, and completely turns his career around from what we've seen from the first 2 years. There's no chance that Zach Wilson's fifth-year option gets picked up.
I think it's easier than Lawrence getting picked up. I mean, he's been so bad. I mean, worse than his predecessor Darnold with the Jets, who they didn't even consider picking up his option. So maybe this Rodgers thing is good for him as a person, as a quarterback, but I can't imagine him putting enough tape together for the Jets to ever say, wow, we got to pick this up.
It's so expensive to pay him too, and there's a lot of guarantees.
Right.
I don't know if he can really end up on another team. That's tough to trade.
That's tough to trade
as well. Trey Lance is interesting at number 3. The 49ers famously traded up from number 12 to number 3. Still haven't picked in the first round since then. And Trey Lance has only played about 4 games in his NFL career. Sat year 1 behind Jimmy Garoppolo, had a little spot duty in year 1 as a rookie, then broke his ankle early in week 2, and that was it for his sophomore season. So we really don't know a lot about Trey Lance. Then Brock Purdy shows up and kind of wins the job. So Trey Lance is not in the same bucket as Zach Wilson, where he's put all this bad tape out there, but he's put no tape out there. So he's going to have to put out some tape. And if he doesn't start over Brock Purdy, he's not going to get his fifth-year option picked up.
So a couple questions for you. I mean, do you know where Purdy is in his recovery right now?
Yes.
And okay, let's start there.
So Purdy's recovery is projected 3 months, 12 weeks after surgery is when he can start throwing. And John Lynch was on local radio yesterday and basically said he's on that path. And they had to push back because of swelling. They had to push back that surgery date, which is really key because the 6 months from the original surgery date in February is going to put him right about training camp. So he's on schedule. He's supposed to start throwing here, which is in another month. He's 2 months out of his surgery. He's going to start lobbing the ball around, working on his throwing program at the 12-week mark, which is the 3-month mark, supposed to be pretty much ready to go at around the 6-month mark, but they don't know. Maybe it's closer to 5. Maybe it's more like 7 or 8. So could be well into the season before he's ready. Could be right about that final preseason week before the season starts is around the 6 months. In fact, exactly 6 months from the day he got surgery is the day the season begins, week 1 for the 49ers. So and he's on pace right now. So I would guess that he starts to get cleared after camp practices, after the preseason, but somewhere near and maybe before week 1 in that little extra period before the season starts.
Okay. And he will be the starter if he's ready, correct?
That's how they say it.
Thought,
they're going to have to see him. Kyle did say he's going to have to see him practice. And he does say that Trey has a shot. And so we'll see. Trey has to put together a really nice offseason, really nice camp and preseason. And if this is where it gets nuts, because all it takes is a couple weeks. And if Trey looks great, I don't know how you can go to Purdy.
Right.
So it does get really interesting there. And then Sam Darnold throws a whole wrench in the works as well.
Do you think they fielded offers for Lance? I thought there was a really good chance he was going to get traded.
Yes.
And when he didn't, I was curious, did the teams that know him well, namely the Titans, teams like that, just not like him? Or do you think the price was expensive?
It's a huge question. I think it's kind of all the above. And basically John Lynch confirmed, he's like, yeah, we did get offers, but we're not shopping him. And I have a feeling that their asking price was higher than any team wanted to meet, clearly, because he's still on the 49ers. And clearly the team that has folks that know him the best, like the Texans and Rand Carthon, who was in the front office that drafted him with Tennessee, they went and got different quarterbacks. And so maybe if Will Levis doesn't fall to the second round, is that pick now the 49ers right now and Trey Lance is in Tennessee?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Right. Okay. And again, I can understand going after a rookie. You buy a couple of years and you don't have this conversation for a while longer until the 5th-year stuff. But I almost feel like best chance for Lance is the Jordan Love move. And maybe that being a predecessor might help his chances of hanging out a year longer. If he spins his wheels for a while or, maybe they extend him at the end and he doesn't hit the 5th-year window.
It's so tough with Lance because he was such a unique prospect because of how little he played anyway. And he's so talented. Like the 49ers should be rooting for him to win the job because he's more physically talented than the other quarterbacks. If he bumps his head on the ceiling, he's better than Purdy, better than, Darnold, whatever, better than whoever they're going to have. He just hasn't played, so he needs to play. So if he doesn't play with 49ers, his agent should be calling everybody and causing a ruckus to try to get him traded out somewhere he can play. Like he needs to play this year.
Exactly.
Career with no matter who he's going to be on, no matter what happens after post 5th-year option.
That's why I brought up Love, because going into this stage of Love's career, hadn't played at all. I mean, not even his fault. And I feel like Lance has to get out of there or win the starting job, even if it's a trade deadline deal. If Purdy's clearly the one, if he demands a trade and the Raiders say, we'll give you a third for him and give it a shot. Okay. I think he has to do it.
Right. And at that point, his value would be even lower because he didn't win the job. And, it'd be worth
still an unknown.
Kyle Pitts, interesting. Pick 4. And man, this is one that you thought was safe. You thought he was such a dynamic athlete, and he really hasn't put up the numbers that were expected. Tight ends don't make a ton, so the dollar won't be as high as, say,
I think that's what works in his favor. That's why I think he's probably a yes, because tight ends are 11 million. So I think that's about where the number was this year. So maybe it's 12 by his time. And I think he gets a bad rap because any of us, including myself, that had him on their fantasy team hates him much more than he deserves. I mean, because the one year he didn't score a touchdown, but had 1,000 yards. I mean, and then this past year he gets hurt and was overdrafted in fantasy, but by yours truly in particular. I had him ranked ahead of Kelsey. He was my tight end 1. I'm not giving up on him, though. I mean, I still think he's special.
He's a guy that's built like not score a touchdown, by the way. I think that's offensive coordinating problem more so than it's a Kyle Pitts problem.
Yeah, I would imagine. I mean, he's built to do everything.
Right? How is that not the thing he's the best at in the world? We saw it in Florida, right? All right, next we've got pick 5 through 32. We'll get through these, and my official opinion on Kyle Pitts is it's a wait and see. He needs a year 3 that looks like something, and then you pick that up.
Yeah,
but I would lean
another frustrating year would hurt him, or another injury plagued year would hurt him. Yeah, right.
Then it's a no for sure. Yeah, that's teetering on the fence. Jamar Chase, Jalen Waddle, Devontae Smith, some more wide receivers coming up, and Micah Parsons, who's changing his body to be no longer the LB. He is the DE now for officially the Dallas Cowboys next. Today's episode of Peacock and Williamson is brought to you by Built Bar. You're looking for that high protein, low calorie, low sugar snack, then Built Bar's for you, man. And of course, you're looking for that type of a snack. And how about these flavors at Built Bar? Because it is the best tasting protein bar, not only on the market now, but on the market ever. Flavors like cookie dough chunk puff, animal cookie bar, peanut butter puff, some of the newest flavors there, cookie dough strip bar. And how do they make these flavors with such low calories? I don't know how they do it, but they are magicians and they are amazing and they taste fantastic. And even if you want little smaller bites, they've got some mini bite Built Bar puffs that you can get. Brownie batter puff, mint brownie puff, only 80 calories and 8 grams of protein in the Built Puff bites. So, I mean, we're talking tons of flavors, tons of varieties. Get yourself a mixed box of Built Bars. If you're not sure what flavor you want to try, I always recommend the old-fashioned peanut butter bar. I love that one. It's still my favorite. It's one of the OGs, but you can find your favorites at built.com, and you can find them on store shelves as well, like your local Walmart and Sam's Club. Walk into Walmart today, go to the pharmacy section, find 4-bar boxes of flavors like cookies and cream, double chocolate, or coconut puff. And at Sam's Club, you can grab a 13-bar box of hit flavors, brownie batter puff and churro puff, and then you can thank us later. And of course, find everything at built.com. So Jamar Chase was the 5th pick in the 2021 NFL draft. That has gone swimmingly for the Cincinnati Bengals, and that is an auto 5th-year option pickup.
The easiest one of all, probably, including Lawrence. I mean, right there with that. I mean, he's one of the best receivers in the league.
Pretty easy for Jalen Waddle as well, who's been
I think so.
Fantastic for the Dolphins out of Alabama.
I mean, especially if Tyreek Hill does retire in 2 years like he plans and all that. You know, you don't want to lose both. So, yeah, easy one.
It's becoming clear that there's going to be more 5th-year options picked up from the 2021 draft than the 2020 draft, right? I mean, unless there's some disastrous year 3s here.
I think, but there's some interesting ones to talk about. The top of the draft is strong.
Starting off hot, you know, with 3 or 4 right out of the gate, but maybe that's going to slow down here. What about Penei Sewell, the 7th pick by the Lions in 2020?
Yes, I think he's an easy yes, too. I think he's quickly becoming a top 5 tackle.
We got back-to-back corners. Remember, this was the famous part of the draft where it was like, well, of course, the Panthers are going to take Justin Fields here, right? And if they don't, the Broncos are. Went cornerback. The Panthers traded for pre-draft Sam Darnold and ended up drafting J.C. Horn at corner. Then pick 9, the Denver Broncos ended up drafting a cornerback, Patrick Surtain, and then went a different direction, trading for a quarterback later. And we all know how that's going right now for the Denver Broncos. People fired. But what do you think about the 5th-year options for the cornerbacks, J.C. Horn and Patrick Surtain? Surtain's easy. He's been awesome. Yeah. That's a pickup for sure. Some injuries. J.C. Horn, maybe not as clear.
Yeah, I think that one's foggy. I mean, I like what I've seen. I think there's a lot of talent there. They're an ascending team, you hope. But if you had to make that decision right this second, probably not. But he needs to have a good year.
Right. And he has that opportunity because, unfortunately, he missed his entire rookie season because of injury. And, so then you can't expect him to be an all-pro in his first ever action once he finally gets on the field in year 2. So now year 3 is big for him. Devontae Smith, the 10th pick in the draft, Philadelphia Eagles wide receiver, has been very nice. Been more of a Robin to A.J. Brown's Batman after last year. But, man, he's been fantastic himself.
Yeah, he's a really good player. I don't know that it's an easy one slam dunk. I mean, if he happened to slow down this year and you got Hurts's contract, that's eating up a lot of space, they can't be as free spending as they've been. But he's a yes.
That would be more of a you pick up the 5th-year option, then you trade him before that option dollar hits the next year, something like that.
Maybe something along those lines.
Rather than not picking it up, I would think. Justin Fields.
To be determined.
It's to be determined. He needs to continue to build on what we saw last year. If they had to make the determination right now, clearly after trading out of the top spot and getting a different quarterback, they would pick it up. If you had to do it after 2 years, we'll see what it looks like after 3 years. I have a feeling it's going to be a pretty easy option to pick up with the way his career's gone, but he does have some ground to make up from, just operating from the pocket as a quarterback. We know the athleticism and the arm is there.
I'm so a believer. I think he's an underrated passer, accuracy guy. But this is pivotal for him. I mean, is he would get like Tua money, I assume, which I think was like 25 million. I mean, I guess that's worth it considering what he brings to the table. But what if the Bears, which isn't a very loaded roster, what if they're 5-12 this year? Well, then maybe I'm just going to the draft.
Yeah, if they end up with the number 1 or 2 pick and end up having an opportunity for a quarterback, and that probably means Justin Fields either was hurt or did not play well, there might be your answer. And
you have the Panthers pick too. I mean, you might look at this next class and be like, I'm going to go to door number 2.
Yep. It is a possibility. And yeah, you mentioned the accuracy. The deep accuracy is there. Justin Fields, like the easiest part of playing quarterback, I call it easy, like as if any of it's easy. But the easiest part of playing quarterback, you should be able to just get that 3-step drop and get the ball out to, in the short to intermediate area. And if he fills in that part of his donut, it's a big hole in the donut. He fills that up. I mean, you are jamming because he can make the elite throws and he's an elite athlete.
So this is a little convoluted, but I went back and looked at the Bears Fields' rookie year 2 years ago, because that was Allen Robinson's last year with Chicago. So after the Steelers traded for Robinson, I studied that offense. About as bad of an offense as I've ever seen. It's schematically and just in terms of dysfunction. And then last year, he really had very, very little around him. So you can excuse away what hasn't gone well for him to this point too,
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And by far the best roster and, year 2 with the same group of coaches. So that'll be really important for Justin Fields. I expect him to take off.
Yeah. I think he's a breakout candidate, not just for fantasy.
Micah Parsons broke out very early in his career and is now officially an edge rusher and is even putting on weight to compete as a defensive end now for the Dallas Cowboys. What do you think about the weight gain for Micah Parsons? And obviously that's an easy option to pick up for them.
I hate the weight gain. Why change anything? You're a top 5 defensive player, but I'm being kind. I'm being harsh on him. He might be number 1. Why do anything different? I mean, just keep working out like you're working out. And if you naturally put on a couple pounds, great, but don't go out of your way to say, I'm going to add 10 or 15 pounds because I'm a DN now. I mean, I wouldn't change a thing.
He's not a small guy.
No.
So there's continue to be great. How about that?
Yeah, right. Just keep it up.
I don't care what letters are after your name on the depth chart, right?
And I think like almost 90% of his snaps last year were on the edge. This
he's an edge rusher. Everyone knows it. So,
Right.
5 pounds, okay, but I don't want to see like 20 pounds on him.
Right. I don't want you looking like Reggie White out there,
Yeah, that's true. Rashawn Slater, Chargers offensive lineman. This was a really good draft at the top, man.
Yeah, I mean, last year doesn't help his cause, but he's a very good player. I would be shocked if Slater isn't picked up.
I mean, he's a hit. He's a player.
Yeah.
If injuries, derail his career, that's one thing. But if he plays, he's gonna get that option picked up as a franchise left tackle.
This next one's interesting, though.
Yeah, Elijah Tucker. He was the 14th pick by the Jets in 2021 out of USC.
He also is a hit, but last year before he got hurt, he kicked out the tackle and played quite well. He did that at USC. And where I'm going with this is just like we talked about the other day. Paying guards 5th-year money is a flaw in the system. You're giving him tackle money, but he's a really good guard. So
it's going to be the same option dollars for Rashawn Slater as a left tackle is
right.
Elijah Tucker, who's going to be a
Penny Sewell. So maybe you try to extend him the second you can and make a deal that everybody's happy with, because that's a little hairier than it should be because nobody did anything wrong.
Unless there's Pro Bowls in there that move guys around to different tiers of that 5th-year option system.
What do you think this next guy?
Mac Jones at 15. If it had to be picked up today, it would be a no. Based on them trying to trade him and word out of New England that they like Bailey Zappi just about as much. But I have a feeling after rethinking their offensive coordinator stuff and Bill O'Brien in there, it's going to look a little bit different and more like his rookie year than it was his sophomore year. So Mac Jones is definitely to be determined. Huge year for his career.
Yes. I mean, again, I often say this, especially about quarterbacks, that I could be the prosecuting attorney or I could be the defending attorney for these guys. Like if I'm defending Mac, I'm like, this guy really did not have a chance to succeed last year. Like that was almost any quarterback would have really struggled under those circumstances. But if I'm the other attorney, I would say your rookie year was nice, but not good enough for me to pick up the 5th year option. So you still have to have your best year for, either way.
Right. Either way, you would still have to have your best year. And look, Mac Jones, I don't know what it's like to be around him or what his personality is like inside the building, but if he was upset about what happened last year, he has every right to be, because I would be.
Of course.
Yeah.
I mean, if Brady said it, it would be like, oh, Tom's right, And I understand there's some different cachet there, but I would be frustrated too if I was Mac Jones.
We started off pretty hot with projecting some of these 5th year options next year, but we might hit a little bit of a skid, starting with Zaven Collins, 16th pick in the draft, linebacker for the Arizona Cardinals. They just declined the linebacker they took in 2020, his 5th year options, and went back-to-back linebackers, very interesting, oddly built linebackers. What about Zaven Collins' first couple of years, Matt?
He's got to have a blow-up year. I mean, he's had a hard time seeing the field too. They haven't used him well. He's not an impact player. I mean, no.
Yeah, you got to impact to, especially for the off-ball linebackers. We've seen 3 of the last 10 only 3 of the last 10 picked up for off-ball linebackers in the first round. Alex Leatherwood, that is big no. 18th pick. That was by the Raiders, by the way, and the Raiders had a really rough time drafting around this area of their history. Jalen Phillips, Dolphins defensive end. That's probably a no right now, but
I think that's a yes. I think he's like one of the most underrated guys in the league.
Okay.
And ascending. I mean, I think he's Pro Bowl-ish, and would shock.
And a Pro Bowl year this year would definitely make that a huge
definitely make that.
The 5th year
There's one aspect of this exercise I meant to mention 2 days ago that I just want to throw in there. If you pick it up, it's guaranteed. So let's say you draft a dude at 30 that should have got drafted at 15, but he had medical red flags, and your doctor's telling you this guy's hanging on by a thread. That might be, a reason you don't pick up the 5th year, because it's guaranteed if you don't expect him to stay healthy,
Right. And it's such a long time before that 5th year. So you pick it up even before year 4 starts. So there's going to be a whole other year that could really change how you feel about picking up that 5th year option. And we've seen some teams with quarterbacks like Sam Darnold and Baker Mayfield. You picked up those options. They're like, as a quarterback, we'll pick up that option. And they're like, oh, God, I don't know about this $18 million now once you get to year 5.
Right. And the guy's and I got to pay it no matter what.
All right. Next, we're going to finish up round 1 of 2021. Kind of looking back at there's some hits and misses, a lot of hits early, some misses late in the round, projecting out what those 5th year option decisions might look like next year. Today's episode of Peacock and Williamson is brought to you by our friends at Built Bar. Make sure you check out the best tasting bar on the planet, the best tasting protein bar on the planet, high in protein, low in calorie, low in sugar. And thanks everybody for making us your first listen every day. Shout out to the everydayers. What's coming up next on Peacock and Williamson? Deep dives on the 2023 NFL draft, division by division, team by team, starting Monday. Okay, Matt, here we go. What pick are we on here? We are on pick number 219.
Jamin Davis, yeah.
Yep. Linebacker out of Kentucky. I really can't even recall seeing him on the football field in this first couple of years.
Yeah, I thought he played okay. I think he missed some time. Pretty nondescript first 2 seasons. Would have to blow up to even consider it.
Is he still even on the roster?
Yeah.
He is. Okay.
Yeah. I think he was injured part of the year when he was starting to look good, but it's amazing we're having this conversation and we're this nondescript about him.
Right. Like, I don't remember seeing any plays he's made in his NFL career. It's pretty wild. Number 19 overall pick. Kadarius Toney's already on his second team. He's on the Kansas City Chiefs now after being drafted by the Giants at pick 20. Resurrecting his career a little bit, but for wide receiver money, not an option to be picked up.
I think not. I mean, an underreported story is look how bad the Chiefs wide receivers are. I mean, it's Hill, it's Valdez Scantling, or not Hill. I mean, it's the kid they draft, Sky Moore, Valdez Scantling, and the draft pick that I thought they overdrafted this year, Rasheed Rice. That's their wide receivers right now. So Tony might get peppered with targets, but I still can't imagine a world where it gets picked up.
He would have to have that, Deebo Samuel breakout season in that gadgety sort of a way where it's like, okay, he's doing everything for this offense, which is possible. He's a talented guy.
Yeah.
But
unreliable as could be, though, too.
Right.
Yeah.
Kwity Paye has been a big disappointment for the Indianapolis Colts, who drafted him 21 overall in 2021, defensive end from Michigan.
Could he have a 12-sack year and make you consider it? Possibly, but that's what would have to happen, and that seems unlikely.
One of those players who dropped because of injury, super talented Caleb Farley out of Virginia Tech in the 2021 draft, went to the Titans at pick 22, and those injuries followed him into the NFL.
No chance, right? I mean, he's never on the field either, so can't do it.
Christian Darrisaw, tackle for the Minnesota Vikings, pick 23 out of Virginia Tech, back-to-back Virginia Tech players, by the way, in the 2021 draft. What do you think? Vikings' decision on Darrisaw is?
I think you lean towards yes. I think he keeps getting better. I think he's their best lineman. Their offensive numbers are much better with him in the game. Man, except for Leatherwood, this offensive line class was pretty good.
Right. And, you're talking about a starting tackle. You're probably going to pick that up, and especially if it's at a level where he's played a lot of snaps, maybe no Pro Bowls to put him in the really highest tier of what tackle money would be. I think that's a very likely option to be picked up, especially with what we're seeing with some tackles that are getting paid, in free agency as well.
So what do you think of these next two running backs?
You never draft a running back in the first round. Never pick up the fifth-year option. So we got Steelers' Najee Harris, who's been good, and Travis Etienne has been good for the Jaguars, back-to-back 24 and 25 here. These are interesting ones, and it depends on what that dollar ends up being. It's funny because they go have a Pro Bowl season, and maybe it makes it less likely, but is it still more likely because the fifth-year option isn't going to be big? So if you're still a starting player and a good player at running back, I think it's still likely that your option will get picked up. It's that if you're not a clear starter, like this is our dude, then that's when you definitely don't pick it up.
I mean, so Edwards-Helaire, who obviously didn't go to a Pro Bowl, was right around $5 million, which was way less than anyone else in the exercise we did. So let's just say it's even $7 million for these guys. Then I think the answer is yes. And especially in Harris's case, you pick it up, run the guy into the ground, and then just send him on his way. And
maybe even franchise tag him if it's still
get
in
one
the $10
more
million range too, right?
Yeah, and he doesn't make much money, and his body gets beat to hell, and so be it. Don't be a running back, But I think both players have been a little bit disappointing in that Harris isn't as explosive as I expected, and Etienne doesn't offer as much in the passing game as I expected.
Right. They were talking about making him a running back or making him a wide receiver.
Well, that was what's his face, though. That was.
But he had a nice year, and they cleared the way for him, and he's the guy. So they both have good seasons. They both get picked up.
I think so.
And if they don't, then maybe not.
Yeah. The rest of these are a little hairy.
Greg Newsome, I expected more from in his Browns career to date, and there was rumors that he was being shopped around draft time, and that's probably an indication that his fifth-year option would not get picked up by the Browns.
I don't think he stinks. I mean, Browns fans might be like, I like Newsome, but you got to be pretty good to get this thing picked up, a guaranteed money for a corner. I lean towards no, probably for the rest of these guys, to be honest with you.
Bateman, I think, could very easily go the other way and have a big year because he's talented. He just had some injuries and get that option picked up. But that has to happen for him this year for that to be the case. The 27th pick by the Ravens in 2021.
I love the pick. I feel bad for him that he hasn't been on the field, hasn't been in a high volume passing offense either. I own him in a bunch of dynasty teams. I could write the story where he's their leading receiver and it's an easy pickup, or I could write the story where Zay Flowers, Odell, and Andrews all have more targets.
Yeah, there's some mouths to feed there in the passing game. Rashad Bateman might be one of those sneaky players where another team should swoop in, and if he doesn't end up being more than maybe a number 2-3 receiving option for them, maybe try to trade for him next offseason.
Put him on Green Bay or there's a lot or Kansas City. There's a lot of spots to have him. So how about this little nugget I heard this morning is I was listening to a fantasy podcast about best ball right now, which I might get invested in best ball. I've never done it, but I guess Beckham, Flowers, and Bateman, their ADP is all right next to each other. It's like 140, 141, 142. Like, I don't know who I'd rather have. And I can understand
flip a coin. Draft them all and then cut the other two halfway through the season.
Right. They're all dead even right now.
Peyton Turner, defensive end out of Houston, was the Saints pick at 28. That's a no right now.
No, right. I mean, how do you even consider it?
I mean, of course, all these guys can have really big year threes, and we only have 2/3 of the information of what the teams will have when they make that decision next year. But
and 5 of them will miss a lot of time with injuries too.
Right. Yeah, work to be done for sure, and big time work for some of these guys because it's not looking good. Eric Stokes, Packers cornerback.
He's been okay, but no,
Yeah, that's a tough one. I could see that going in either direction, but right now, if they had to make the decision, probably not.
I like the player.
Similarly with Greg Rousseau, right? Big edge rusher for the Bills.
I mean, he's hardly even a starter. I mean, and that's by design. They have so many defensive linemen, but I can't jump on board yet. But really, these last 3 are all edge rushers: Rousseau, Owe, Tryon. I mean, kind of like we said about Kwity Paye. Could one of them have a dozen sack season or double-digit sack season? It's possible, but they're not indicating that they're knocking on the door to do that.
No indication that season is coming for those guys right now at 30, 31, and 32. All different shapes there, but interesting. And like we talk a lot about positional value too, but right now, Najee Harris and Travis Etienne, while I wouldn't have taken those running backs in the first round, even though the positional value isn't there, they've had better careers and have been more valuable to their teams than Owe and Tryon have, the edge guys at the end of the round.
Pretty much anyone drafted after them, to be honest with you. I mean, these last 6-7 picks haven't been great. Well, Stokes has been decent. I mean, Newsome and Stokes have been useful. Maybe that's a little bit harsh. And they're corners.
I bet the Jaguars wish that they had moved up one spot for Tyson Campbell, the first pick in the second round, because he's been nice for them, and I think they would like to have a 5th-year option on him.
Yeah, and then the next 2 picks were Elijah Moore and Javonte Williams, who one changed teams, and I don't know if Williams will ever be the same.
Yeah, Javon Holland was the next pick, the 4th selection in the second round. He's been awesome for the Dolphins.
Dickerson's been a quality guard for the Eagles too, and I think Barmore's a potential breakout. But luckily, in a way, you're kind of happy you don't have to make the decision on those guys from the 5th-year option. You just
play it straight and just like, you're up, and we'll re-sign you or we won't.
Yeah, exactly. So
I think that's why a lot of teams are just declining the option, because it's making their decisions easier too. If it's not a slam dunk, it's like, well, look, we'll re-sign you if you have a big 4th year, but prove it.
And I've told people this around here often, like a year, I know this is small potatoes, but a year ago, the Steelers didn't pick up Terrell Edmonds' option, and it was an easy one. If we were talking about Edmonds right now, I'd be like, no. But then they re-signed him at an okay deal right after the season ended. It doesn't mean your guy is never going to play for your team again. It just means I'm not guaranteeing you X amount of dollars in that 5th year.
So I wasn't even keeping track of how many yeses we thought there was, but it felt like there's an opportunity for more, but some work needs to be done than the 12 options that were picked up, 12 and a half options that were picked up from the 2020 class.
At about 14 or 15, just as you were saying that sentence, I was like, yes, and trying to count. And a couple of those like Fields and Horn, I'm not going to say were slam dunks, but I would say I'm definitely going to take the over on 12.
Yes, as would I.
Yeah, no doubt.
All right, that was fun. Thanks, everybody, for making us your first listen here on the Locked On Podcast.
If we listen for this a year from now, we might laugh at ourselves to no end, though.
Oh, it's hilarious. They can almost all flip the other direction.
They really could. Yeah,
almost.
Very volatile.
I would say there's 5 or 6 that are like, yeah, boy, I know where that's going.
Yeah.
Fantastic stuff. We're back Monday. We will be breaking down every single team's NFL draft division by division right here. Peacock and Williamson.